If you don't do what I say, we're getting divorced, he threatened, thrusting the papers into my hands. I knew this moment would come sooner or later. Fine. Let's get a divorce, I replied calmly. What? He blurted out, taken aback. I started filling out the forms right in front of him. All right, I'll fight it, I said, my voice steady. He stared at me in disbelief, as if he hadn't expected me to actually go through with it. You don't understand, he muttered. Without me, you'll be all alone. Sure, I'll be alone, I said, unfazed. Is that all you wanted to say? Because I'm busy packing. Packing? To move out, he stammered. Of course. We're getting divorced, so I'm leaving. The timing couldn't be better. My name is Sarah. A few years ago, I married my husband Jason. We don't have children, and both of us are busy with our careers. My parents passed away in an accident during my first year of work, leaving me to face life on my own. When Jason and I got married, I was so grateful. I longed to build a family with him and dreamed of having 2 children, imagining a bright future together. Reality turned out to be much different. After our wedding, Jason's attitude slowly grew cold. Sarah, if I ever leave, you'll be all alone again, he'd say during even the smallest arguments. He knew my vulnerabilities and used them against me, sparking constant fights. He often complained about my housework, picking at the smallest things. Stir-fried vegetables for dinner? He'd scoff. This is food for old people. Didn't I call you earlier to ask what you wanted for dinner? You said, whatever. Yes, but I still think a good wife should figure out what her husband wants and make it. I was craving pala tonight. Then why didn't you say so? You expect me to just know without asking. No matter what you cook, I'd still have something to complain about. What? What did you just say? I work just as hard as you do, and I'm the only one handling all the housework. Don't start with that. Before we got married, you said you enjoyed doing housework. I do enjoy it, but when you constantly criticize everything I do, it makes me not want to do it anymore. I see. What do you mean by that? Oh, nothing. Just thought you were getting a bit cheeky. Cheeky? If that's what you think, it means you don't respect me. I don't like that about you either. Always overanalyzing. I don't want a wife who talks down to me like this. Here we go again. Next, you'll probably remind me that I'm all alone in the world. And right on cue, Jason added his usual line. Well, maybe having kids will fix that loneliness. Maybe it's time we start a family. Jason always brings this up after every argument. When we first got married, I was eager to start a family right away. But the kind man I had married soon disappeared, replaced by someone who constantly complains. Now the idea of having children with him fills me with hesitation. It's true that Jason is my only family now, but before marrying him, I lived alone and managed just fine. I have enough money to support myself and could go back to that life if needed. Sometimes the thought of returning to solitude seems better than enduring Jason's threats. If we had a child, I fear I would spend my life enduring his abuse, and he would likely direct that abuse at me in front of our child. I can't shake this fear, and it leaves me feeling stuck. Jason doesn't like my reluctance, but he doesn't understand my reasons either. Before we got married, you were eager to have kids right away, so why are you now so hesitant? Isn't this a bit deceitful? If that's the case, why don't you make me feel more comfortable about having kids? Are you going to keep criticizing my cooking, my housework, and the way I fold clothes even in front of them? I'm not criticizing. I'm just expressing my thoughts. That's just how it sounds to you because you're overly sensitive. Maybe your personality was affected by not having parents during your childhood. What are you talking about? Are you trying to make me look foolish? I'm not making the fool out of you, Jason said with a dismissive grin. The look on Jason's face was clear proof that he was making the fool out of me, and to make matters worse, there was my mother-in-law. Any grandchildren yet? She would ask every time I visited her house. That's right. You should ask her about it too. She's not contributing at all, Jason would say. Sarah, what's going on? My mother-in-law's gaze was piercing. I was at a loss for words. Well, there are issues, my mother-in-law said. Jason, you need to discuss this with Sarah. I do talk to her all the time, but this woman. Don't call her this woman. Just make sure you and Sarah work things out, all right? All right, I understand, Jason replied. My mother-in-law is a quiet person. Since her husband passed away, she has been living alone. She means well, but her constant question, any grandchildren yet, weighs heavily on me. I can see how much she's looking forward to becoming a grandmother, so I can't bring myself to tell her that I'm unsure about staying married to her son because of his personality. I had no choice but to keep my concerns to myself. Then my mother-in-law had an accident. I received a call from Jason and left work early to rush to the hospital. I arrived before he did. I'm sorry for the trouble. How is mother? I'm okay, just a broken leg, she said with a weak smile. Oh my God, you don't need to cry like that, she reassured me, though I couldn't hold back my tears. I'm sorry. I was terrified I might lose you too. I was so worried on the way here. Oh well, I guess Jason didn't tell you. I'm sorry for making you worry and for reminding you of what happened to your parents. This was the first time my mother-in-law and I had a deep conversation. You should head home now, she said gently. But I want to wait for Jason. I'll go home with him, I replied. She sighed. He's not coming, so you might as well go home. That can't be true, I said, not wanting to believe it. I'm his mother. I know, she said firmly. It was disheartening, and unfortunately, she was right. Jason didn't show up even after visiting hours were over. When I returned home, he was lounging on the couch, watching TV. What are you doing? I asked, puzzled. What do you mean? Jason replied, feigning ignorance. You called me to say your mother had an accident today, so why didn't you come to the hospital? Oh, I figured you'd handle it. One person's enough, right? She's still alive, so it's not a huge deal. She's your only mother, I pointed out. Shut up. Just make me something to eat. I'm starving. You haven't eaten. Of course not. Why should I spend my own money when you're cooking? I'm not cooking. I'm going to bed, I said firmly. Don't you dare talk to me like that. If you make me angry, I'll divorce you, you know, Jason threatened. Then go ahead and do it. I was hungry, but Jason's words and actions had irritated me so much that I decided not to cook for him. I stayed in the bathroom, determined not to give in. The next morning he was already gone. From that day on, he never came back, presumably staying at his parents' house. I left him there. After work that day, I hurried to the hospital to see my mother-in-law. I chose not to mention Jason. I didn't want to add to her worries. I made it a point to visit her every day while she was in the hospital. Thank you so much, said Sarah. I know you and Jason aren't getting along, but I really appreciate you being there for me. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize, I replied softly. I can guess what's been happening. Understand you didn't want to have children, and he must have caused you a lot of distress. I didn't know how to respond to my mother-in-law's insight, so I remained silent. A woman's intuition can be very accurate. He's the one who made you worry about having kids, so it's all right now. I was looking forward to having a grandchild too, and I probably pressured you more than I should have. I'm truly sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't meet your expectations either. As we were talking, the doctor informed us that the treatment would take longer than expected, but she would be discharged soon. Since she lives alone, she'll need assistance until her leg heals. I'm in a position to help, so I arranged to work remotely on a limited basis with my company's approval. When I told my mother-in-law about it, she felt bad that I had to go through this, but I reassured her that it was fine. On the day of her discharge, I picked her up from the hospital and brought her back to her house. The atmosphere was tense, especially with Jason there. He should still be at work at this hour. I was supposed to meet him in the evening. But even though he approached, it felt uncomfortable. My mother-in-law was watching me intently. Actually, Jason and I had a bit of a fight, and he left the house, so today will be the first time we're seeing each other in a while. My mother-in-law looked uneasy. See each other where? This is the only place I can think he might have gone. Her expression grew stern. I understand now. I'm sorry, I said. Why are you apologizing? Jason is your beloved son. I know it must be uncomfortable for you to hear that I've had conflicts with him. No, not at all. He's the type who never bothers to visit me. What? He never came to visit you? No, never. I was shocked. My mother-in-law had been in the hospital for 2 weeks, and he hadn't visited her even once. What, Anne? Well, he's not the sweet boy you might think he is. What do you mean? Sarah, calm down and listen. He doesn't have a key to this place, so he's not here. That means it's fine. I have an idea. Let's discuss what we can do together. Then my mother-in-law surprised me with an unexpected offer. A week later, I found myself back in the house. As I was packing my bags, I heard the front door open. Oh, perfect timing. I wanted to talk to you. I'm busy. How's Mom doing? Why don't you go see her yourself? Ha! You're the one taking care of her, so I don't need to go. Besides, you're supposed to be looking after Mom. If you don't do what I say, we're getting a divorce. He handed me the divorce papers. Had been expecting this sooner or later. All right, then let's get a divorce, I said, filling out the divorce papers right in front of him. Fine, I'll fight for myself, Jason replied, looking taken aback. You don't understand, do you? Without me, they'll be all alone. Yeah, all alone. Is that all you have to say? If so, that's enough. I'm busy preparing to move out. Where are you moving to? What? Isn't it obvious? I'm divorcing you and moving out. The timing is just right. And who will take care of Mom? Don't worry. I'll make sure your mother is taken care of. You're an idiot, you know that. If you stood up for my mom, you'd get your inheritance. When she dies, I'll be the one to inherit everything as her only son. You're not my son anymore. And in surprise as my mother-in-law appeared in the doorway. Oh, what are you doing here, Mother? You need nursing care, don't you? I came to help Sarah move out, you idiot. I can manage on my own with these crutches. My real child is Sarah. I don't need someone who's just after my inheritance while I'm still alive. You won't get a thing. I'm divorcing her. That means she won't be entitled to any inheritance. I'm in the process of adopting a child. What? I'm also in the process of making sure you're disqualified from inheriting anything. You won't get a penny of my money. Oh, that's why I wanted kids. I thought if I had children, they'd be entitled to the inheritance. That's why I pushed for having kids as soon as possible. You're hopeless. You're more of an idiot than anyone could imagine. If you have a child, I'll make sure that child is disqualified from inheriting as well. You old. Jason tried to grab my mother-in-law, but I quickly intervened, pushing him aside and taking her by the hand as we left the house. Hey, are you his wife? A strange woman stood in front of our house. Oh, it's you. You're the one he's been having an affair with. What? Well, for now. Did you sign the divorce papers? Please get out of this house as soon as possible. I see. So Jason had dragged this woman into his scheme. I was taken aback by her sudden appearance, but felt no sympathy for Jason's affair. Instead, I was relieved to know I could secure alimony. When Jason showed up, he flinched at the sight of me with his girlfriend. You're the one who made her wait here. So you were having an affair, huh? Thanks for the confirmation. I'll be sure to get my alimony. Jason stood there, dumbfounded as my mother-in-law and I got into the car and drove away. We went straight to the city office and filed the divorce papers. I then pursued alimony from both Jason and his girlfriend. Despite their excuses, their affair was easily exposed through the girlfriend's social media. They transferred large sums of money to me. It turned out the girlfriend was after my mother-in-law's inheritance, and she vanished from Jason's life once she realized he wouldn't inherit anything. It was clear they were both motivated by money. Jason made several attempts to reconcile by visiting my parents-in-law's house, but his mother refused to see him. I blocked his contact information early on, and though he called from unknown numbers a few times, I didn't answer. Since then, my mother-in-law's leg has fully recovered, and she's thriving with no lingering effects. I'm deeply grateful to her for suggesting that I move on. Now, several years later, I'm still enjoying life with my mother-in-law. I'm no longer alone. We've formed a close-knit family, bound not by blood, but by the care we share. I plan to continue living my life with her, as she is like a mother to me. It's unforgivable to take your spouse for granted and treat them poorly. Jason's reasons for wanting children were selfish and misguided, and he will never find happiness. I hope Sarah and her mother find happiness in the future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.